I was born right down the road from where Herman Melville wrote Moby Dick in Berkshire Mountains. I came from the kind of childhood that gave you broken bones. When I was 6 years old, I had a map over my bed, and it's one of the only things I owned. And I was always sent to bed with nothing to do. I had that map, and so as a 6-year-old's brain would work, I had the idea of someday, if I survive this situation, I'm going to go someplace where I'm loved. However a 6-year-old puts it in his head, that's kind of how I came up with the walk. I turned 40 years old. I was a combat paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne Division, so I jumped out of perfectly good airplanes all over half the globe. And I thought that would take care of it, but it didn't. I backpacked Europe in '94, thought that would do it. It didn't. I really had to do America. So I turned 40 and started walking. Oh, I got a pile. Yeah, I got a pile of stuff. Yeah, in here I got sleeping bags, stove, couple headlamps, couple bed pads to sleep on the snow with, a lot of plastic sheeting because it rains so much here. So that's a lot of weight, unfortunately. Socks. Half a dozen liner socks, half a dozen over socks. I don't have any extra clothes. What I'm wearing is these pants. These have been on my body for almost the entire 3 years. And I paid $120 for them. But I've worn these pants, except for in the heat of summer where I wore a lighter pair. I've worn these all 3 years. Yeah, in the first 2 months, I lost 50 pounds. I went from 175 to 125. Yeah, that was bad. I look like a POW. A desert deliverance town where I went in and asked for water. They told me no, they weren't going to give me water. We don't have water. And it's called Concha Dam. And everything in the town was named the Dam Store, the Dam Market, the Dam Gas Station. And everything was closed up for the season, but there was water. And so I had snuck in somebody's backyard and basically stole to fill up my water tank, filled up with water. But I only filled one. I had to get through the desert. 120 miles of traveling, 15 miles in the snow in the desert a day, and it wasn't going to last me. And sometimes the sand would take over and there'd be no snow. When there was snow, I'd melt that down for coffee or whatever. I knew I'd run out of water, so I had to get more water. Even if I had to fight this guy, I had to get more water. He's like, I don't have water. I'm like, I saw the spigot. I used the spigot behind your fence. He goes, well, if you know where it's at, you best get at it and get out of here. And if I were you, I would just keep my head down and get walking, because everybody here is related to somebody else. So I was like basically warned if I went anywhere with it, I probably wasn't going to make it all the way across the desert. So, and not to mention, 911 doesn't exist when you're walking across New Mexico. Chama is the name of the town in New Mexico. I come out of the mountains. I buy myself this meal that's $20, a breakfast meal. And it's so much money. And I'm like, I can't believe this, but I've been dying of hunger. So I buy this meal. I come outside. They're setting up for a hot air balloon show. I run over. I'm thinking I'll get a couple good pictures. They fly me around the Rocky Mountains all weekend long, take champagne, pour it over my head, baptize me as a member of their clan. All these fantastic pictures from the air. They drive away, and when they drive away, oh my God, the walk gave back to me. Longest stay over was in Thermopolis, Wyoming, and I met a pastor and his family, and he gave me a hotel room for the night. We became good friends, and I stayed a couple of days. I was getting ready to leave, and it's horribly hot, 110, 115 in the desert, and even hotter, I think, after that. He had a brand new stack of shingles in his yard, and he wasn't somebody that was going to shingle. He didn't even know how to work them. They were 3 tabs, and it wasn't something he did, and I did construction. I'm like, when are you going to do your roof? And I look up, and it's like cornflakes. He goes, and he had to strip a couple layers. He's like, why? Do you know how to do it? I'm like, yeah, I know how to do it. And basically, I ended up doing it with him and showing him how to do it. So I spent a month with him and his family, or a month and a half. There was a blizzard coming. I was going through Apache land. One of the elders took me in. He wanted to take me out for a steak. He was wearing an old hunter cap. Gorgeous man. I mean, just out of a movie. Takes off his fluorescent hat, pulls out a $100 bill he'd been saving for a bazillion years, pulls it out. He wants to buy me a steak, but he orders himself a bowl of broth and a piece of fry bread. I'm like, I'm going to have a bowl of broth and a piece of fry bread. There's no way I'm going to have a steak. And he liked what I did, and we got ready to leave. He's like, I'm going to talk to the other elders, and I'm going to send people from my clan out to find you. He sent an elderly woman. It had to be 80 miles one way with a bag of jerky and some other miscellaneous lifesavers or whatever in a bag. And she got out there before the blizzard, delivered it to me, gave me a hug, and then drove 80 miles back to the Apache Nation because the elders in her tribe said, this man really needs it. We have to help him. In the desert, no food, no water, ran out of everything. I let my base camp know. She called up George Rorito on the Navajo Nation FM or AM channel, and he put it out over the air to the Navajo people. The Navajo people came out for a week, one after another, bringing me food and water into the desert. Just before I went into the Rockies, I was going outside of Tucumcari, New Mexico. This is where I was shot at. And I was shot at with 13 rounds with a rifle. Sleeping out in the field, they were shooting at me because they thought I was an illegal. I wasn't illegal to them. To the people that were shooting at me, which were ranchers or whatever. They drove by in their pickup trucks, saw my tent way out against the mesa, pulled out a rifle and started shooting at me. I have eaten rattlesnake, I've eaten rabbit, I've eaten grouse, I've gone in the ponds and gathered snails. I mean, you name it. I've picked plants and eaten them. Bugs. Yeah, and I've had, my total soles of my feet covered with blisters, and that's happened several times. Changing over to crappy boots and just trying to make them work, and there was no other option. I've had it many times where my feet are so bad, I couldn't lay them on my mat at night. I had to prop my feet up because the blisters were sitting on the pad, and it's just excruciating, but that's just part of it. 28 pairs of hiking boots. Over $3,000 just on boots.